I'm going to say a sentence that very few men in this politically correct culture would actually have the courage to say publicly. I want my girlfriend to be submissive. Lots of men want that. Very few of them admit it, but I think one of the reasons is there's a real stigma around the word submission and what that concept could mean. Is it patriarchal? Is it sexist? And I got curious about this, so I've spent the last couple of weeks asking all of my friends, what exactly does submission mean? When you say you want a submissive girlfriend, you find the trait submissiveness to be attractive. What specifically are you referring to? That's what this video is about. So if you want a submissive girlfriend that describes you, then let this video be your guide. First of all, submissiveness does not mean some blind loyalty of a disciple to an authoritarian dictator. It's not a tyrannical relationship where a man rules over a woman. We already have a name for relationship dynamics like that, and it's not submission, it's abuse. Men who abuse women are complete scumbags, and what they're practicing is the exact opposite of what I'm talking about with submission. I have to make this distinction clear from the outset because there's this talking point from radical feminists that all men who say that they want a submissive partner are just actually controlling abusers and they're sexist. No, I'm telling you up front that none of the men that I spoke to who wanted their partners to be submissive described anything even close to resembling an abusive relationship. And so if you can't understand or appreciate the nuance, the difference between a woman being submissive in a relationship and her being abused in a relationship, that says nothing about the male desire and everything about your own lack of psychological sophistication. If it's not abuse and control and power, then what is it? If you want to understand what men actually mean when they say they want a submissive partner, then watch the rest of this video. Also, none of the men that I spoke to who wanted their partner to be submissive in the relationship liked the idea of a society-wide submission where all women were submissive to all men. Of course not. Do you know how much of a nightmare that would be? Most people, men and women included, suck. They're very low quality. And so why would you want your high quality girlfriend or your high quality daughters to be forced to be submissive to some loser chump off the street just because he happens to be a man? Female submission isn't designed to be some social wide movement. We're talking about the interpersonal dynamics within a relationship. Men want their high quality female partners to be submissive to them. So what does that submission look like? Well, it actually just looks a lot like traditional femininity. She's kind to me. She speaks nicely to me. She's calm. She's respectful. And of course, the man responds to her in the exact same way. It's a mutually respectful relationship. As the man, he understands that if he wanted to, he could use physical intimidation. He could raise his voice. He could show a lot of male anger, which we know women are frightened of, and he could use that to get his way. But here's the thing. Even though the media is absolutely littered with stories of these men who are petty dictators who frighten and abuse women, the truth is that a lot of men really hold back. When a man is in the presence of a woman, he dials back all of his aggression and his masculinity and his anger. Maybe with his friends or his male enemies, he's a more authentic expression of his manhood, but he knows that in the company of his partner, it's not appropriate to be displaying that kind of raw masculinity, and so he holds back. Now, knowing that he holds back, that in his relationship, he's going to lead in a soft manner, it's completely appropriate to expect that she's going to respond to his softness with the softness of her own. What too many men have experienced is that the softness that they're bringing to their relationship dynamic is not met in kind by their female partner. There are plenty of women out there who act absolutely awful in their relationships because they know they can get away with it. You will never convince me that this is not a real phenomenon because I have heard too many stories from real women from my personal life, awful stories about the way that they used to treat men. That concept of men can never hit women, men should never frighten women, that is taken by a certain segment of the female population as a great, no consequences then. I've heard numerous confessions from women about the ways that they've treated men that have included being hurtful, critical, abusive, violent, knowing that they were going to face no consequences. So this is one of the primary sources for a man's desire for female submission comes from. He wants to know that if he's not ruling with an iron fist, he's not being a dictator, an authoritarian, controlling boyfriend, if he's being soft, gentle, collaborative, compassionate, he wants to know that she's going to meet him with that same energy. She's not going to take advantage of that, assuming that his gentleness is weakness to be exploited. In that context, who wouldn't want a submissive girlfriend? Who wouldn't want their partner to speak to them nicely, to give them the benefit of the doubt? If a disagreement comes up between the two of them, they can resolve it peacefully. If he makes a mistake in good faith, then it will be forgiven. That's the first component of submissiveness. It's just good old-fashioned feminine kindness, and it's lovely. The second aspect of feminine submission is that she understands your role as a leader. Again, leader, it's one of those awful words that everybody freaks out about, but I'm not talking about some petty dictator who uses his position of power to enrich himself. I'm actually talking about leadership as a burden of responsibility. A man's leadership in a relationship isn't done for his own benefit at her expense. It's something that he assumes in order to benefit both of them. When he's making decisions in the relationship, in his capacity as a leader, it's not so that he can make himself win and her lose. It's so that they can both win. Sometimes there might be competing interests, and it will look like him putting his own needs first, but sometimes it'll look like putting her needs first. How to balance that, when to make that call, that's an incredible burden. It's extremely stressful. And so you see, the leadership that he assumes isn't some fun joyride. It's a burden he assumes because he wants to benefit her life and his and save her from that kind of stress. I think when people hear about a woman being submissive in a relationship, they think of a stereotype, like really shy girl who doesn't have many thoughts of her own, many opinions, and she just sort of does whatever she's ordered to do. You know, the silent submissive type. But that's absolutely not how it looks. It doesn't even make sense because can you understand that a man can't actually do his job as the leader of a relationship unless he understands the needs and wants and thoughts and feelings and values of his girlfriend intimately? He needs that information if he's going to make good decisions. He needs to be talking to her constantly. What do you think? What do you feel? What do you desire? What do you hope is going to happen in the future? He needs to know her really well. And then once he has that data, all that information, he can send it through his own mind, do all of those masculine calculations, weigh the pros and the cons, the benefits and the detriments, and then make his decision for the benefit of them both. It's not an easy task being the leader in the relationship. Just take a usual typical couple problem, like, okay, we've got finite money. What should we spend it on? Should we put it towards the mortgage so we can retire earlier? Or should we go on a holiday because we're stressed? If a man's going to make that decision, he needs to know the emotional state of his partner really, really well. If she's the silent type and he makes the decision without consulting her or even thinking what she wants, then he's likely to have made the wrong decision. Like, oh, I can't believe you just wasted money on this pointlessly decadent holiday. We could have put this towards something practical. Or they don't go on holiday and his silent wife one day breaks down in tears. She's miserable, she's stressed, she's anxious. She really could have used 2 weeks on the beach. This is what so many people don't understand when it comes to female submission in relationships, because they think it's just this top-down male power thing. It's not. It's incredibly collaborative. It has to be. I can hear some people asking, well, why then, if everyone's having an equal say and it's all about collaboration, should the man be in charge? Why can't we just be equal in the relationship? Why do we even need a leader? That whole notion is archaic and sexist. The reason is that leadership, making decisions, taking responsibility, that all comes naturally to the masculine. It enhances it, actually, but it's not compatible with the feminine. Men and women are different. They just are. I'm not saying one is better than the other, but men and women have been subject to intensely different evolutionary pressures. It's what's created distinct ideas around what is masculine and what is feminine. And all of those burdens that come with relationships, the risk-taking, the stress, the anxiety, the having to think about everybody else's needs, all of that big picture stuff is terrifying to femininity. It's not where it shines. It's not its strong suit. All of those logical decisions that have to be made in a leadership position, that comes naturally to men, to the masculine. Women can do all of that logical stuff. Of course they can. The modern world is filled with examples of women being incredibly successful in those arenas. But it's harder for them. In truth, a woman's success in that realm is more impressive than a man's success because it doesn't come so naturally to them. Most women are a lot more comfortable away from the logic, decision-making, risk-taking stuff. They're more comfortable in their emotions. There are pros and cons to both positions, but I'm sure you can appreciate that being the feminine one can actually have a lot of benefits. Like, think of it this way. Would you rather plan a party and all the stresses that come with that, or would you rather attend a party that has already been planned? That's the difference right there. The masculine plans amazing experiences, but the feminine receives them. In a functional, healthy relationship where the woman is submissive, that's what it should look like. Life should just be an amazing adventure that's planned out for you. It's like every day someone's planned a party for you. I mean, at least with regards to the big picture stuff, I know that women take on the majority of the decision making when it comes to smaller details. But again, that's where they shine. That's where they can express their femininity. And I'm telling you this as an absolute fact of reality is that women are so much better at expressing their femininity when they know someone else is handling the masculine part of life. Do you see then that the opportunity for a woman to be submissive, to even have a chance to have a life like that, is actually a tremendous gift that you're giving a woman, because she's only going to feel comfortable being submissive to a man who's actually up to the task. He's confident, he's competent, he can do it, he can handle the masculine. There are so many women out there in relationships who would love to be more submissive, but they can't because their man sucks. She has to step up, she has to indulge her masculine, she has to make decisions because he's failing. Ladies, wouldn't it be nice if your man was competent and high quality and he took care of all of that stressful stuff so that you could just relax and shine at what you do best? There's probably some men out there who are thinking, geez, this actually sounds pretty nice. I can understand the appeal of the female position. And while it absolutely sucks to be a woman who's stuck with a man who's failing in his masculinity, and so she has to develop it, I'm telling you, some of the happiest people on this planet are women who are with a competent man. Their life is really good, and I can understand if some men would be jealous of that position. It's actually the topic of my latest Patreon video, Should Men Be Jealous of Women? Check that one out. But my larger point is that when a woman is with a high-quality man who understands her, who listens to her, who collaborates with her and consults with her, and then makes plans for their life together that she ultimately agrees with, she's going to be happy. In that situation, female submission is a privilege that she gets to enjoy. I think a lot of men, when they say, I want my girlfriend to be submissive, what they're really doing is stating a goal that they have for their own personal self-development as a man. Essentially, I want to be a high enough quality man and good enough at leading in a relationship, masculine enough, that my partner can have the privilege of being submissive. I want to raise myself to that level. In that context, can you see that a man saying he wants his partner to be submissive is a really good thing? We want men to be competent, successful, and high quality, right? Well, perhaps his partner being able to be more submissive is just the proof at the end of the rainbow that he's made the journey. One of the female members of my Patreon community wrote to me on this topic, and what she said was so insightful. I don't remember the exact words, but essentially she said, I want my boyfriend to make the decisions in the relationship, but I always want him to make the right decisions. That way I get exactly what I want, but I didn't have to have the stress of figuring it out. And that right there is the final part of female submission that everybody has to understand, is that when a woman does submit to her boyfriend in a relationship, she hasn't elevated him to the position of a dictator. He's more like a public servant who serves at her pleasure. He isn't a conqueror, he's an appointee. Ultimately, she's made the choice to be submissive to him. He serves her, he leads for her benefit. And guess what? If he sucks at the job, she'll fire him. If he's low quality, if he's incompetent, if he becomes tyrannical and starts abusing his power, she'll fire him. She'll find a replacement. I'm sure there's another man that's willing to take the job. But you see, my larger point is that female submission is not for the man's benefit. It's for the woman's benefit. Better put, it's for both of their benefit, because I'm not going to claim that there's no advantage to being the man in this situation, because it's a fantastic opportunity for you to feel competent, for you to feel masculine, for you to feel good about yourself. You've really fulfilled your role as a man. That's good. And of course, it's so lovely to be on the receiving end of female gratitude. When you're doing your job well and your partner is just gushing, she's so grateful for everything that you do, she tells you that she loves you all of the time, then you can just bathe in all of that love and appreciation. That's a good thing. Dude, you've earned it. But I hope that you understand now that you've finished this video that female submission is not this boogeyman that we need to be afraid of. It's not evidence of sexism or patriarchy. or any of that nonsense. It's men and women falling into reasonably natural roles that come to their gender. If anything, it's a sign of health of the relationship. It's not anything that needs to be forced. It's just a natural dynamic that arises when two people are cooperating, a man and a woman, in harmony. So now that you've heard how good submission can be from the woman's perspective, are you a little bit jealous? Can part of your personality be like, gosh, that actually sounds really nice? If so, I really think you're going to find my latest Patreon video very, very interesting, all about male jealousy of women. The comment section had a fascinating discussion. That's one of the best parts of the Patreon community. It's not just the videos, but the people and the discussions that happen afterwards. I'd love for you to join that community. It's just $5. Try it out. If you've got $5 lying around, sign up to my Patreon, have a look what's on offer. I think the exclusive content is amazing quality. I think you're going to love it.